slowing down. With this being the month of October, I figured I'd cover some horror-themed games, along with, some other games that I've written reviews for that I really felt that itched to write. Now, for the most part, I'm not reviewing any survival horror games. Most have three typical cliches that I absolutely cannot stand. Those being a really mediocre camera, bad controls in general. Sorry, I freaking hate the controls in old Resident Evil games such as Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3. Your nostalgia's kind of clouding up, and even with modern ones such as Alan Wake or Silent Hill Homecoming, Alone in the Dark, I still feel, they use bad controls as a way that the gameplay is solid. The game is very much like the Valve Fear. And also they have at times a plot that makes low sense whatsoever. So this time, let's check out some of them I got laying around. There are classics like Castlevania Symphony of the Night, buried treasures like The Suffering, and games that are so bad you can make a Saw movie through torturing people with them. So let's start off the first of this bunch of horror-themed games with a game from a classic series. Let's take a look at Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance. There's not much to the development of this game. It was released in 2002 for Game Boy Advance. It was the second Castlevania game to be released for the system, the first one being Circle of the Moon, which I will also be covering, and it was developed and published by Konami in Japan. It was another one of the Castlevania games Koji Igarashi was producer on. Igarashi credits his inspiration to Symphony of the Night for the majority of the game. It wasn't a big success sales-wise for reasons we will get into later. The story is pretty well useless. He plays Juice Belmont, a descendant of the badass Belmont vampire hunting family. It has something to do with your friend Maxim returning after leaving for 5 years. Apparently he got beaten up nearly to death, and he found a castle where Juice's friend Lytle has been captive. The problem is that he doesn't remember what happened to him after he left. The use of the plot is so minimal that it might as well be a progress screen to let you know how much further you got left to play. The graphics for a 2002 Game Boy Advance game look pretty damn good. The levels have tons of detail. Each section of the game has its own style. You can see different books on shelves, different candles on a chandelier, and so on. This is such a cool thing that it makes it probably one of the best looking GBA games for its time, and possibly one of the better looking games of all time for the Game Boy Advance. Not to mention, this game is huge. Sure, it's scaled back from Symphony of the Night, but it's still a huge game. Monsters also look great. There's a ton of enemies with lots of variety. Bosses are also badass. Every boss looks menacing and has a lot of detail and looks like they could be a giant pain in the ass. Sure, it's par for the course for the series, and some seem to be rip-offs of Symphony of the Night bosses, but it still doesn't take away how good they look. My only real problem is that there are some frame rate issues, and you need to get a lot of enemies and moving objects for it to really start Symphony of the Night or Circle of the Moon. The game is a fair bit bigger than Circle of the Moon. There's more areas to explore, more abilities and items to collect. It'll probably take around 10 to 20 hours depending on skill level and how often you get lost. My biggest issue with this is that it does a similar thing that I heard Symphony of the Night did. To save on room or whatever the reason, it uses an alternative world to have two castles interconnect with each other. This is an integral part of the game's plot where characters react different depending on which castle you are in. My problem with this is that it feels like it's cheapening out on creating a new world or more levels on an already big enough game. The game also ups the amount of armor you can equip. You can equip body plate, 2 utility pieces, gloves, rings of boots, a modifier for whip, and a fourth piece as well. They also introduced a currency system to the game. My only problem with the currency system is that the merchant is a jewel collector and will only take jewels as a sellable item. This is very minor, and same with my issue with how useless most of the armor is. Most of the time when I get back to them or find them eventually, either the armor I had on me was better or there wasn't a big enough jump in defense to warrant this price tag. This led to me stockpiling potions and almost using them in a carefree manner. Yes, I know RPGs do this all the time, but it's a cliche that still bugs me a little bit. The biggest issue is that the game is too easy. The game gives you so many screen annihilating or clearing spells that it makes most bosses a joke. I think more players will likely stop playing because of how often you get lost at times and how boring fights can be than actually finishing the game. Not to say everything is bad. It fundamentally works. The controls are great. Platforming and attacking is done with ease along with using abilities or spells. It generally feels like a well-made game despite some of the minor problems it has. Overall, Harmony of Dissonance is a pretty good game. It takes an alright solid game concept in Symphony of the Night and improves on what Circle of the Moon did on Game Boy Advance. Graphics run smoother, music is great, and it's just a solid playing game. I just wish it was a bit harder. If you're a fan of this kind of game, then definitely pick it up if you haven't. You can get it in a 2-pack with Araya of Sorrow, which, quite frankly, these two are, you know, even if it did come with Circle of the Moon instead of Araya of Sorrow, it was definitely worth a pickup. Also, you can pick this up on the Nintendo eShop along with Circle of the Moon and Araya of Sorrow. So, if you haven't played this game and you have interest in this Castlevania Symphony of the Night style gameplay, you know, you really don't have too many excuses. I give it an 8 out of 10.